A ritual is a sequence of activities involving gestures, words, and objects, performed in a sequestered place, and performed according to set sequence. Rituals may be prescribed by the traditions of a community, including a religious community. Rituals are characterized by formalism, traditionalism, invariance, rule governance, sacral, symbolism, and performance. Rituals are a feature of all known human societies. They include not only the worship rites and sacraments of organized religions and cults, but also rites of passage, atonement and purification rites, oaths of allegiance, dedication ceremonies, coronations and presidential inaugurations, marriages and funerals, school rush, traditions and graduations, club meetings, sporting events, Halloween parties, veterans parades, Christmas shopping and more. Many activities that are ostensibly performed for concrete purposes, such as jury trials, execution of criminals, and scientific symposia, are loaded with purely symbolic actions prescribed by regulations, a tradition, and thus partly ritualistic in nature. Even common actions like handshaking and saying hello may be termed rituals. The field of ritual studies has seen a number of conflicting definitions of the term. One given by Kyriakides is that a ritual is an outsider's or etic category for a set activity that, to the outsider, seems irrational, non-contiguous, or illogical. The term can be used also by the insider or emic performer as an acknowledgement that this activity can be seen as such by the uninitiated onlooker. In psychology, the term ritual is sometimes used in a technical sense for a repetitive behavior systematically used by a person to neutralize or prevent anxiety. It is a symptom of obsessive-compulsive disorder. Etymology. The English word ritual derives from the Latin ritualus, that which pertains to rite. In Roman juridical and religious usage, rite was the proven way of doing something, or correct performance, custom. The original concept of rites may be related to the Sanskrit artya in Vedic religion, the lawful and regular order of the normal, and therefore proper, natural and true structure of cosmic, worldly, human and ritual events. The word ritual is first recorded in English in 1570, and came into use in the 1600s to mean the prescribed order of performing religious services, or more particularly a book of these prescriptions. Characteristics of ritual. There are hardly any limits to the kind of actions that may be incorporated into a ritual. The rites of past and present societies have typically involved special gestures and words, recitation of fixed texts, performance of special music, songs or dances, processions, manipulation of certain objects, use of special dresses, consumption of special food, drink, or drugs, and much more. Catherine Bell argues that rituals can be characterized by formalism, traditionalism, invariance, rule governance, sacral, symbolism, and performance. Formalism. Ritual utilizes a limited and rigidly organized set of expressions which anthropologists call a restricted code. Morris Bloch argues that ritual obliges participants to use this formal oratorical style, which is limited in intonation, syntax, vocabulary, loudness, and fixity of order. In adopting this style, ritual leaders' speech becomes more style than content. Because this formal speech limits what can be said, it induces acceptance, compliance, or at least forbearance with regard to any overt challenge. Bloch argues that this form of ritual communication makes rebellion impossible and revolution the only feasible alternative. Ritual tends to support traditional forms of social hierarchy and authority, and maintains the assumptions on which the authority is based from challenge. Traditionalism rituals appeal to tradition and are generally concerned to repeat historical precedents accurately. Traditionalism varies from formalism in that the ritual may not be formal yet still makes an appeal to historical. An example is the American Thanksgiving dinner, which may not be formal, yet is ostensibly based on an event from the early Puritan settlement of America. Historians Eric Hobsbawm and Terence Ranger have argued that many of these are invented traditions, such as the rituals of the British monarchy, which invoke thousand-year-old tradition, but whose actual form originate in the late 19th century, to some extent reviving earlier forms, in this case medieval, that had been discontinued in the meantime. Thus, the appeal to history is important rather than accurate historical transmission. Invariance. Catherine Bell states that ritual is also invariant, implying careful choreography. This is less an appeal to traditionalism than a striving for timeless repetition. The key to invariance is bodily discipline, as in monastic prayer and meditation meant to mold dispositions and moods. This bodily discipline is frequently performed in unison, by groups. Rule governance. Rituals tend to be governed by rules, a feature somewhat like formalism. Rules impose norms on the chaos of behavior, either defining the outer limits of what is acceptable or choreographing each move. Individuals are held to communally approved customs that evoke a legitimate communal authority that can constrain the possible outcomes. War in many societies, for example, is bound by highly ritualized constraints that limit the legitimate means by which fighting can be conducted. Sacred symbolism. Activities appealing to supernatural beings are easily considered rituals, although the appeal may be quite indirect or subtle, expressing only a generalized belief in the existence of the sacred demanding a human response. National flags, for example, may be considered more than signs representing a country. The flag stands for larger symbols such as freedom, democracy, free enterprise and national superiority. Anthropologist Sherry Ortner writes that the flag does not encourage reflection on the logical relations among these ideas, nor on the logical consequences of them as they are played out in social actuality, over time and history. On the contrary, the flag encourages a sort of all-or-nothing allegiance to the whole package. Best summed, our flag, love it or leave. Particular objects become sacral symbols through process of consecration, which effectively creates the sacred by setting it apart from the profane. Boy Scouts and the armed forces in any country teach the official ways of folding, saluting and raising the flag, thus emphasizing that the flag should never be treated as just a piece of cloth. Performance. The performance of ritual creates a theatrical-like frame around the activities, symbols and events that shape participants' experience and cognitive ordering of the world, simplifying the chaos of life and imposing a more or less coherent system of categories of meaning onto it. As Barbara Mayhoff put it, not only is seeing believing, doing is believing. Genres of ritual. For simplicity's sake, the range of diverse rituals can be divided into categories with common characteristics. Rituals can fall in more than one genre. Rites of passage. A rite of passage is a ritual event that marks a person's transition from one status to another, including birth, coming of age, marriage, death, as well as initiation into groups not tied to a formal stage of life such as a fraternity. Arnold van Gennep stated that rites of passage are marked by three stages: separation, transition and incorporation. In the first stage, the initiates are separated from their old identities through physical and symbolic means. In the transition phase, they are betwixt and between. Victor Turner argued that this stage is marked by liminality, a condition of ambiguity or disorientation in which initiates states have been stripped of their old identities but have not yet acquired the new one. Turner states, the attributes of liminality or of liminal personae are necessarily ambiguous. Quote, in this stage of liminality or anti-structure, the initiate's role ambiguity creates a sense of communitas or emotional bond of community between them. This stage may be marked by ritual ordeals or ritual training. In the final stage of incorporation, the initiates are symbolically confirmed in the new identity and community. Calendrical and commemorative rites. Calendrical and commemorative rites are ritual events marking particular times of year or fixed periods since an important event. Calendrical rituals give social meaning to the passage of time, creating repetitive weekly, monthly, or yearly cycles. Some rites are oriented towards seasonal changes, and may be fixed by the solar or lunar calendar. Those fixed by the solar calendar fall on the same day each year, while those calculated by the lunar calendar fall on different dates each year. Calendrical rites impose a cultural order on nature. Misha Eliade states that the calendrical rituals of many religious traditions recall and commemorate the basic beliefs of a community, and the yearly celebration establishes a link between past and present, as if the original events are happening over again. Thus the gods did, thus men do. Rites of exchange in communion. This genre of ritual encompasses forms of sacrifice and offering meant to praise, please, or placate divine powers. According to early anthropologist Edward Tyler, such sacrifices are gifts given in hope of a return. Catherine Bell, however, points out that sacrifice covers a range of practices from those that are manipulative and magical to those of pure devotion. Hindu puja, for example, appear to have no other purpose than to please the deity. According to Marcel Mauss, sacrifice is distinguished from other forms of offering by being consecrated, and hence sanctified. As a consequence, the offering is usually destroyed in the ritual to transfer it to the deities. Rites of affliction. Anthropologist Victor Turner defines rites of affliction actions that seek to mitigate spirits that inflict humans with misfortune. These rites may include forms of spirit divination to establish causes, and rituals that heal, purify, exorcise, and protect. The misfortune experience may include individual health, but also broader climate-related issues such as drought or plagues of insects. Healing rites performed by shamans frequently identify social disorder as the cause, and make the restoration of social relationships the cure. Turner uses the example of the Isoma ritual among the Ndembu of northwestern Zambia to illustrate. The Isoma rite of affliction is used to cure a childless woman of infertility. Infertility is the result of a structural tension between matrilineal descent and virilocal marriage. It is because the woman has come too closely in touch with the man's side in her marriage that her dead matricon have impaired her fertility. To correct the balance of matrilineal descent and marriage, the Isoma ritual dramatically placates the deceased spirits by requiring the woman to reside with her mother's kin. Shamanic and other ritual may effect a psychotherapeutic cure, leading anthropologists such as Jane Atkinson to theorize how. Atkinson argues that the effectiveness of a shamanic ritual for an individual may depend upon a wider audience's acknowledging the shaman's power, which may lead to the shaman placing greater emphasis on engaging the audience than in the healing of the patient. Rites of feasting, fasting and festivals. Rites of feasting and fasting are those through which a community publicly expresses an adherence to basic, shared religious values, rather than to the overt presence of deities as is found in rites of affliction where feasting or fasting may also take place. It encompasses a range of performances such as communal fasting during Ramadan by Muslims, the slaughter of pigs in New Guinea, carnival festivities, or penitential processions in Catholicism. Victor Turner described this cultural performance of basic values as social drama. Such dramas allow the social stresses that are inherent in a particular culture to be expressed and worked out symbolically in a ritual catharsis. As the social tensions continue to persist outside the ritual, pressure mounts for the ritual's cyclical performance. In Carnival, for example, the practice of masking allows people to be what they are not, and acts as a general social leveler, erasing otherwise tense social hierarchies in a festival that emphasizes play outside the bounds of normal social limits. Yet outside Carnival, social tensions of race, class and gender persist, hence requiring the repeated periodic release found in the festival. Political rituals. According to anthropologist Clifford Geertz, political rituals actually construct power. That is, in his analysis of the Balinese state, he argued that rituals are not an ornament of political power, but that the power of political actors depends upon their ability to create rituals and the cosmic framework within which the social hierarchy, headed by the king, is perceived as natural and sacred. As a dramaturgy of power, comprehensive ritual systems may create a cosmological order that sets a ruler apart as a divine being, as in the divine right of European kings, or the divine Japanese emperor. Political rituals also emerge in the form of uncodified or codified conventions practiced by political officials that cement respect for the arrangements of an institution, a role against the individual temporarily assuming it, as can be seen in the many rituals still observed within the procedure of parliamentary bodies. Ritual can be used as a form of resistance, as for example, in the various cargo cults that developed against colonial powers in the South Pacific. In such religio-political movements, islanders would use ritual imitations of Western practices as a means of summoning cargo from the ancestors. Leaders of these groups characterized the present state as a dismantling of the old social order, which they sought to restore.